Russia and Ukraine face extreme weather and rising tensions. Parts of Russia and Ukraine have been hit by severe weather conditions, causing deaths, power outages, and damage to infrastructure. The storm also coincided with a renewed escalation of the conflict between the two countries over the disputed territories of Donetsk, Lugansk, and Crimea. The southern regions of Dagestan, Krasnodar, and Rostov in Russia, as well as the occupied Ukrainian regions of Donetsk, Lugansk, Kherson, Zaporizhia, and Crimea, experienced hurricane-force winds, heavy snowfall, and flooding. The weather claimed at least 5 lives in Ukraine and 4 in Moldova, and left almost 1,500 towns and villages without electricity in Ukraine. In Russia, 1.9 million people were affected by power cuts, according to the Energy Ministry. The storm also raised hopes that it might hamper the Russian military offensive in eastern Ukraine, where the fighting has intensified in recent weeks. Russian forces are trying to capture the strategic town of Avdiivka, which is under Ukrainian control, and have launched assaults from multiple directions. The head of Avdiivka's military administration, Vitaly Barabash, said that the enemy was attempting to storm the city from all sides. The UK Ministry of Defense has estimated that the Russian casualties, the number of killed or wounded, averaged almost 1,000 per day in November, making it one of the most difficult months for the Russian forces. However, the Ukrainian losses were not reported. The conflict, which started in 2014, has claimed more than 13,000 lives and displaced millions of people. NATO pledges support for Ukraine amid rising tensions with Russia. NATO has reaffirmed its commitment to support Ukraine's self-defense and sovereignty as the country faces a mounting threat from Russia. The military alliance's Secretary General, Jens Stoltenberg, said that Ukraine would become a member of NATO subject to reforms after the war, but added that full membership was not possible in the midst of the conflict. Stoltenberg's remarks came ahead of a NATO session in Brussels on Tuesday and Wednesday, which will include the first foreign minister-level meeting of the NATO-Ukraine Council, a body created to improve cooperation and coordination and help prepare Kyiv for membership. The U.S. Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, is attending the meeting and said that allies will continue to support Ukraine's self-defense until Russia stops its war of aggression. The meeting comes amid reports of heavy casualties on both sides of the front line in eastern Ukraine, where Russian-backed separatists have been fighting the Ukrainian army since 2014. The UK Ministry of Defense has described as plausible Ukrainian estimates of Russian casualties, the number killed or wounded, running at a daily average of almost 1,000 in November. This would make November 2023 one of the most difficult months for Russian forces, with many of its losses coming from its assault on Avdiivka. The figures on Ukrainian losses were not provided. Meanwhile, the Chechen ruler, Ramzan Kadyrov, has said that another 3,000 of his fighters are ready to go to and fight in Ukraine for Russia. Kadyrov, who is suspected to be ill, has been a loyal ally of Russian President Vladimir Putin and has sent thousands of his troops to support the separatists in the past. However, the soldiers are frequently derided online for appearing to be mostly concerned with posting staged videos of themselves on TikTok. There have also been several Chechen armed formations choosing to fight on the side of Ukraine rather than Russia. In another development, exports to Russia from Turkey of civilian goods used by the military, such as microchips and telescopic sights, are increasing, causing concern to the US and the EU. Turkey, a NATO member, has been accused of violating the arms embargo on Russia and undermining the alliance's solidarity with Ukraine. Turkey has denied any wrongdoing and said that it was pursuing a balanced foreign policy. In a rare positive news, ancient Scythian artifacts from museums in Russian-occupied Crimea have been returned to Ukraine after a legal dispute over ownership rights during which they spent almost a decade in the Netherlands. A Ukrainian museum said that the artifacts, which date back to the 4th century BC and include gold jewelry and weapons, were part of the country's cultural heritage and would be displayed in Kyiv. The return of the artifacts was hailed as a victory for Ukraine and a blow to Russia's attempts to annex Crimea.